Well, first of all, salute. Salute. I'm glad to see everybody's gotten at least a beverage, and I know the food is trickling out, but it's been pretty quick tonight, so hopefully everybody gets their fill soon. Thank you all for coming out tonight. Carmina and I are both very excited to share a topic, to discuss a topic with you that we've been talking about over the past few weeks, and that's been of interest to us, and we feel is very relevant right now for this time of year, as well as for different things going on in our society and in our economy specifically. Before we jump in and talk, Carmina, I thought I would share a few stats that we found, as we were researching this topic. And maybe I'll ask all of you a question, have you shout out if you think you know. How many objects or individual items are in the average American household? Does anybody want to guess how many objects or items are in the average American household?
Semi-truckload.
So Doris has more than the average amount of objects in her house. I'll tell you, 300,000 items are in the average American. I know, I was actually shocked to hear that too. That's according to the LA Times a few years ago. We have a lot of stuff. Of course, looking at my mom's collection of vases, I can believe that. But also the average size of the American home has nearly tripled in size over the past 50 years. So in the United States, just the sheer amount of space that we have to put our stuff, to put our 300,000 objects, has tripled. And then yet one out of every 10 American families, one out of every 10 American families rent off-site storage. How many of you have a storage? We do. I'm guilty, right? So not only are our homes bigger, but we're also renting space off-site to put the rest of our stuff that we don't use on a daily basis, right? Yeah. And while 25% of people with two-car garages do not have room to park cars inside them, and 32%, only about a third, actually have room for one vehicle. So we add garages to our homes to park our cars, but we don't actually put cars in there because we need that space for our stuff, right? Yeah. So you're kind of hearing a theme here of something, and we so we kind of asked ourselves this question, and Carmina brought this up as something that could be interesting to talk about again this time of year, considering the holidays, it's gift giving season, as well as what's going on right now in terms of our supply chain crisis and not being able to get enough stuff in the time that we want it. And so we asked, why do we have so much stuff? Why is that, happening in our society? And with that, is there an impact to that? Is there an impact to ourselves, to our society, to our country, and to our greater world that we are such a consumerist society? And actually, the Pope has something to say about this. In his most recent letter to the bishops, which they call an encyclical, it diagnosed a society of extreme consumerism. And it discusses, and the encyclical is actually called Care for the Common Home. And what is our common home? Our world. So in talking about care for the common home, one of the things that the encyclical brings up and diagnoses is extreme consumerism. And so we thought this would be an interesting conversation to have. Again, especially relevant right now. One of the things I want to say is neither Carmina and I are sociologists or experts in encyclicals or in certain in economics or global economics. But we did find this interesting. We have done some research and have some knowledge about what the Pope has to say about it, but also just in general about what the impact of it is. So just kind of giving you that heads up. We're also not here as moral elites. We both are Amazon Prime members, and have our own consumerist tendencies. So again, it's more just a discussion and a conversation, and just something what we hope you get out of it is just something that you can kind of think about and take back, and do your own discerning around the topic, and on research as well. We'll give you some things to research and look up that you might find interesting. So Carmina, first of all, thank you for coming up with this idea. It's been fun to talk about it with you on the way to Tallahassee and on your couch later at night, and kind of go back and forth and I've actually learned a lot from what you've had to share with me about what you already knew about it. So thank you for offering this topic as one of our Theology on Top conversations. You're welcome. And as you all have other ideas, please let us know. Please speak up like Carmina did if there's something interesting that you think that we might want to touch on here. But Carmina, from what you've learned and what we've been talking about, can you just share with us sort of what is the definition of consumerism or extreme consumerism?
Well, in more simple terms, I would see it as our culture of buying in the United States, especially overbuying. Not trying to say just the United States, that's just what we're immersed in here.
Right.
That's what I would
That's
call
our experience.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's what I would call consumerism here, just our culture of buying more than what we need.
Yeah, got it. And so what causes that? Why do we do that?
I think there's a lot of layers to that.
Yeah.
One being very aggressive marketing.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much every aspect of our life has marketing in it of some sort.
Right.
Free websites and free videos, it all has commercials in it. There's, we always talk about the amount that our smartphone knows about us and stalks us. It's pretty much all for marketing.
Right.
And I think our culture has made us prone to being victim to, wanting more.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's part of it.
Yeah, a lot of companies have sort of taken advantage of the fact that we're psychologically inclined to think we need something based on what Amazon thinks I need.
Even stores lay out their stores in ways to get you to buy more. It's all very geared to make you buy as much as you can.
Yeah. Well, I know it works on me, that's for sure. I have way too many picture frames and candles. I don't know about you all. Is there something, by the way, that you find particularly compelling to buy that you just can't resist? I'm just curious.
Oh, jackets.
Jackets. Is this one of your collection?
Yeah.
Love it. Actually, I never thought about that. I have a lot of hoodies myself. Yeah.
I like getting hoodies with things I like on it.
Yeah. And one of the things that as I was reviewing sort of the cliff notes of the encyclical I mentioned that Pope Francis wrote, is it does suggest that it's not that there definitely is some psychology behind and it's a mental tendency that we have to just want to purchase something that we're very easily convinced, I guess, that we need something. So it's definitely a head thing. I also think it's a heart thing too, and the Pope does suggest this in his encyclical, that just like we can have an unhealthy relationship with certain substances or people or even with food, we can also have an unhealthy relationship with material goods and kind of use that to fill a void or to make us happy or what we think will make us happy. So I think it's partially psychological, but maybe partially. We'll go ahead. Where you're saying.
There's a high link between certain mental conditions and excessive buying, just to fill give that dopamine rush to
Got it.
fill a void. And I think also having a lot of stuff is also a status thing around here.
Yeah. I never thought about that.
The more you have, the more status you have.
That's a good point.
So I think that plays a part in it as well.
Especially luxury items.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, Emily brought up a good point when we were talking about this, that there's an article that suggests right now with the supply chain management that they're actually prioritizing the luxury items to get delivered to people prioritizing them over need, core
Like
necessities like medicine that people need. Isn't that interesting that even the delivery system, the supply chain itself, sees that there's some kind of status level of the types of goods that we purchase. So really interesting. So we talked a little bit about what consumerism is. As a consumer, and again, I totally acknowledge that I'm part of the problem, by the way. Like, why should I care?
I think why we should care is we should think about the impact it has on everybody and everything. A lot of the items we consume exploit something, and oftentimes multiple things, including people, resources, their wages, and
Just within the United States?
I would say definitely all over the world. Most things you will see in the store made in China, and I believe most people know that
Mm-hmm.
not the most ethical practices over there with how they produce items,
Okay.
with sweatshops, child labor, that sort of thing.
Okay, got it. So there's a global impact potentially on different societies, different countries,
No, for
people,
sure.
wages.
Mhm.
What about the environment?
Well, there's a lot of items where we strip resources for, even down to our smartphones, and ones that aren't exactly renewable. So, we're
Yeah.
dealing with that environmental impact as well, with carbon emissions and whatnot.
Yeah. Do you have an example you could share in terms of the different types of impact that kind of give us a concrete example of what that looks like?
Well, you can think of something as smartphone. Almost all of us have one. Most of these are manufactured overseas, and in shops where the people working there are often exploited, underpaid. The plastic that goes into them emits a lot of pollution materials, and even just transporting them also polluting, getting them over here. Then they're trying to resell you new ones every year, and they all have gold in them, which is like a limited resource as well.
Yeah, for sure.
And then we get a new one every other year, and the process starts over again.
Yeah. And some of us more often than that, I think. Too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is my third one this year because I keep breaking them.
Yeah. Yes. That's easy to do.
Yeah.
It's easy to do. Yeah, and that's such a great example of a product that all of us have, and that maybe we haven't just thought about what it takes to make that phone, and what the impact is of that.
Like the t-shirts.
Like t-shirts, yeah. What is it, like 40 gallons of water, Emily, goes into making one t-shirt?
700.
700 gallons of water. I was way off. I remember the 300,000, not the 40. Yeah, so I would say it's kind of an interesting exercise, and I'll let everybody decide if you really want to know this, but you just look around your house at different items and then research what it actually takes to get it to you. From an economic standpoint, who made it, what they were paid, especially the resources and environmental impact that it has to make those items.
It's a little depressing.
It can be. Yeah. I actually did it today with light bulbs, and I learned a lot. It's gonna be a lot darker in my house from now on, that's for sure. No, and again, this is not to promote some sort of massive transformation of our economy necessarily, or even of our own lives, but more to just be cognizant of what we purchase and how it impacts others in our world. And again, this kind of goes back to what Pope Francis was not implying, but out directly promoting in his encyclical and his letter, which is this idea of integrated ecology. Now I'll explain what that is. It's a pretty common term right now, especially in Catholic circles, if from the Catholic standpoint. And it really just means that our environmental issues and our human, social, economic, cultural issues don't live in a vacuum, that everything's interconnected, and that changes to the environment impact our lives and our economies and how people are able to thrive. And the decisions we make as individuals, as societies, as countries also impact the environment. So there's a lot of interconnectedness, and again, the term that they've coined that is integrated ecology. So it's something to research and look up on your own if you're interested. But the stakes are high at times. The stakes are high. So we kind of understand a little bit more about what consumerism is and some of the impacts of our choices as consumers, as purchasers, as sort of playing in our global market. But what can we actually do to make a difference?
That is often something I've even struggled with, because sometimes you think about these huge problems like this and you think, I can't actually do anything about it. And in reality, most of us can't. But my mom's always told me, you probably can't change the world, but you can change the world around you. So doing small things changes the world around you. And
that's such good advice.
One thing, I think something to consider is being more conscious about what we're buying. It's something I've tried practicing past month or so whenever we started this. Hadn't always worked. But
do our best.
Yeah, like for ourselves, do we need it? Do we want versus do we just want it? I think an interesting, especially for the upcoming season, gift giving. I've been trying to actually steer towards more experience-driven gifts than just like an item.
Tell us what you mean by experience-driven.
It could be something as simple as like getting your loved one a gift certificate to a massage place.
Yes.
Yeah. Just not saying not give them tangible items. I mean, again, we're not trying to be like preachy, but just and so some ideas I've had.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. So thinking about buying consciously, not just for ourselves, but even what we are buying for other people.
Yeah.
And being more thoughtful about the impact that even our own gift giving can have.
Yeah, and it's not even just, kind of going back to the impact on it too, like, this also, helps yourself, conscious buying. I think a lot of us do get tied down with the stress of having so many items around, the clutter, the management, all of that, and the money.
Yeah.
Not having as much money. So it's just something I've been trying to think about, especially with the holidays coming up.
Yeah, and that impact to us too is something I didn't really think about before, but until we were just talking now, is that yes, that to collect that much stuff throughout your life certainly impacts you, especially like you said, the money that it takes to spend it, the stress that it causes. But I know a number of friends who have relatives who've either passed on or who have kind of needed to be, taken care of, and then they've needed to then somehow manage all the stuff that person had accrued in their lifetime and figure out kind of what to do with it. So it's just something that I hadn't noticed before us doing this talk, but in talking to my friends who've had that situation, it kind of I connected the fact that, oh, that's interesting, how now other people in their lives are needing to deal with and just manage all the stuff that they've accrued. Sometimes full storage units or entire houses of things. So it's a good point. I want to go back to your point about buying gifts for others, and that thinking about giving more experiences than maybe giving somebody something that they can't necessarily use. is there anything that says that experiences are, like, we're fulfilled just as much by experiences than material goods, or more or less? Is there anything that says that?
Interesting enough, more people do get more happiness from experiences than products. If you think back at the happiest times of your life, usually you talk about something you experienced, not like, I had this phone. You know, even commercials for products, I mean, they're trying to relate their product through an experience to you. I'm sure you see the commercials with like the cereal, and it's like a mom and a kid, and they're like all happy and giggling over cereal because they're trying to sell that experience to you with their product. So
That's a great connection.
that's
Yeah.
also why I try to think more towards experience-driven stuff, because I think that does, well, it definitely makes us happier.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, that's a great connection, that like experiences are so powerful that even the people that are trying to sell us stuff are selling us an experience with that.
yeah,
I
even
never
the
thought
car
about that.
commercials, they're all going on road trips with
Yeah.
their loved one, what I mean?
I even think about the marketing for medications and pharmaceuticals. It's, it just feels.
Oh yeah, they'll be out with their family, like
Right.
frolicking and
It's
stuff.
all the same commercial, just
Yeah.
a different song. Yeah, that's such a great point. One concept that I hadn't heard of before that I found while we were processing this conversation, Carmina, is upcycling. And I thought that was, so not recycling, but upcycling, which is essentially to take something that you already own and create a different product or a different good out of it. And I'll just give you a tangible example that I have in my that I had in my possession that I didn't think about until now. This is a bracelet. My mom gave it to me a couple years ago for Christmas. She found it at some sort of arts fair, and it's really pretty. It's got little beads on it. They're blue and green, and it's pretty sturdy. Anyway, this bracelet was made out of old cassette tapes. They melted down what was, I guess, what used to be what you would call the film in a cassette tape, and made jewelry out of it. And you would never know that to look at it, but it's just an interesting idea, upcycling. And I actually Googled it, and there's all sorts of websites on DIY ideas for things that you can turn into flower pots, or, just taking common possessions that we have that we no longer have a use for, such as cassette tapes, most of us anyway, and turning it into something that's either beautiful or has some sort of utility to it. So I thought that was an interesting. I know, Emily, you have a bag that you made out of a t-shirt. That's an example. So like a t-shirt that you no longer were going to wear, that you turned into some sort of grocery bag, which is interesting. So anyway, if you're interested, Google upcycling ideas, and I think you'll find some interesting things that some creative ways people have used goods that were no longer of value. So Carmina, I'm just curious, because we both have acknowledged that we're totally prone to consumerism, just like anybody else. Now that you have done this research and kind of thought about this a little bit more, is there anything that you're going to do differently now? Any practices that you're going to take on for yourself?
Every time I go to buy something, I try to think, do I need it, for one? Do I already have it?
Yeah.
Does it bring me joy? And
anything in particular that you think you might own less of in the future?
I'm really bad about wanting or getting skincare products before I'm done with the old ones.
Yes. I when it comes to stuff like that, I tend to buy like 2 or 3 at a time. Mm-hmm. And you're right. I hardly ever use the last little bit of it. And the same way with shampoo. I never finish a bottle of shampoo.
I don't know why.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's almost done.
Yeah, exactly. Good enough. Yeah. No, totally. And I think you've inspired me to, not just in terms of being more thoughtful about what I purchase for myself, maybe owning a few less pairs of socks or something like that, but also in thinking about my own, how I purchase for others and what I give to other people. and really try to be thoughtful about buying things of that I think other people will really value for a long period of time versus just something that'll give sort of a quick, glimpse of happiness in a moment. Even thinking about my nieces and nephews and Christmas gifts that I might purchase for them, a lot of the times, we buy them toys and they play with them for a week and then, they never touch it again. So, which is difficult to do, to find something that kids will enjoy for a long period of time, but I think your experience's suggestion was a good one.
Yeah,
So.
and I think so many people get caught up with having to put a monetary value on a gift. I think there's a lot of experience type stuff you can even do for cheap or free, taking someone out somewhere, heck, even to just a park.
Yeah, totally.
So I think we just get so tied up with having to spend on
Right.
people.
Well, then it's something you can do together as well,
Mhm.
and it becomes a memory. I would say probably the best gift, one of the best gifts I've ever given recently, and I know that I'm going off script, by the way, but I just thought about utility. I came home a couple of years ago, and my mom continuously yelled at my dad about turning the volume of the TV down constantly, which, only made it, caused some complexity in their relationship, made him upset, she was upset, I was upset having to continuously hear this. So I ended up buying my dad a pair of headphones, wireless headphones that connected with the TV. And that was my Christmas gift to him, and it brought peace to everybody. Everybody was happy. So if you even think about gift giving and sort of like the broader impact to the family, might be one technique to think about.
That kind of makes me think of when over the course of my childhood, I don't remember a lot of the Christmas gifts I got because that's how that goes,
Right.
So you play with them for a week, you don't.
Right.
But the one I do remember the most was the video camera I got because that was something I did with everybody all the time.
Yeah. Well, it allowed you to sort of make memories and capture memories.
Oh, so many.
Yeah.
So, just that's the stuff you remember, your experiences.
Yeah.
Not a little toy you got forever ago or whatever.
That's a great example. Do you still have the video camera?
Probably in a box, I'm sure it.
This is your video camera now. You're right.
Yeah,
You're right.
I'm sure
So maybe the phone isn't such a bad thing to have, right?
It was one of those that had the little USB that would pop out on the side. That's how old it was.
I remember those.
Yeah.
I remember those. Got it.
Yeah, the flip.
Flip. Got it. Cool. Well, hey, I think what we're going to do now, and by the way, thank you for sharing all your experiences and knowledge with us around this topic, and really just for allowing us the opportunity to give this some awareness and thought. I think I've learned a lot in just having a conversation with you over the past few weeks. I've actually mentioned this to a few of my friends who have come back and thanked me for even talking about what we were gonna be doing tonight, what we were gonna be talking about tonight, because it's helped them in their own lives. I told you my friend Tony. Right after I told him about our talk, the next day he got a prompt to buy a T-shirt online, and he said, my first thought was what we talked about in terms of my conscious buying, and do I really need that T-shirt? By the way, Tony wears a different T-shirt every day of the year. He's got enough T-shirts. Most of them have 80s bands on them, so I think that eventually that's gonna.
It actually helped me too, talking it all out, because I've thought about this stuff for years. But it doesn't seem very, I think talking about it helps really set it in.
Yeah, totally. So I'm gonna just kind of bring us out with reading a quick excerpt from Laudato Si, which is Care for the Common Home, the letter that the Pope wrote to the bishops recently. Again, I encourage you all, if you have an opportunity, to read it. Or if you're impatient like me, just go online and look at the Cliff's Notes, and you'll find lots of articles that kind of highlight what's important about it. No offense, Emily or Father. It's 6 chapters, 185 pages, but a lot to unpack and really interesting, thought-provoking insights in it. It's just that let somebody else do the work, is what I say. But the excerpt, it says, and I mentioned this term earlier, but an integral ecology is made up of simple daily gestures which break with the logic of violence, exploitation, and selfishness. In the end, a world of exacerbated consumption is at the same time a world which mistreats life in all its forms. So we'll leave you with that to think about. Nothing heavy or anything like that. But one of the things we wanted to do is take a quick break, and then I've placed, just like before, some slips of paper and pens on each table. I'm just curious if all of you, now that you've listened to this, just have ideas of things that you generally practice, or maybe things that now you're thinking about taking on in terms of battling consumerism. And again, purchasing, being part of a capitalist economy, not a bad thing, but there's certainly an impact to our extreme consumerism, in our societies. I'm just curious if there's anything ideas that you have that, or things that you're already doing that maybe the rest of us might benefit from knowing or hearing about in terms of how you think about material possessions for yourself, or even, in terms of giving to others. So I'm sure this room is full of some really cool ideas. I'd so really like to hear a few of them, and then maybe we'll take a quick 10-15 minute break. Carmina and I will come back and share the top ideas, the most creative ideas that you share, and then we'll keep drinking and eating. All right, thank you.